Tell me that you want me, and I'll be yours completely, for better or for worse. I know we'll have our disagreements, be fighting.
Can keep my hands on myself. Pick out dust them off, put them back up on the shelf. Yes, my little baby girl is in need. Am I coming out of left field? Ooh, I'm a rebel just for kicks. I've been feeling it since 1966 now. Might be over now, but I feel it still. Ooh, I'm a rebel just for kicks now. Let me kick it like it's 1986 now.
We can do this every night. You can be my ride or die. We can live this way every day. Go out like dynamite. I'm living life ride or die. I'm gonna live this way every day. We can do this every night. You can be my ride or die. We can live this way every day. Go out like dynamite. I'm living life ride or die. I'm gonna live my life, live my life. Ride or die. All my friends, they're different people, anxious like the ocean in a storm. When we go out, yeah, we're electric, coursing through our bodies till we're warm. And why mess up a good thing, baby? It's a risk to even fall in love. So when you give that look to me, I better look back carefully, 'cause this is trouble. Yeah, this is trouble. I said, ooh, ooh, you got me in the mood. I'm scared, but if my heart's gonna break before the night will end. I said, ooh, ooh, we're in danger, sleeping with a friend. Sleeping with a friend. All my friends stay up past midnight, looking for the thing to fill the void. I don't go out, must I got used to something about the strangers and the noise. And why leave when I got you, baby? It's a risk, but babe, I need the thrill. I never said you'd be easy, but if it was all up to me, I'd be no trouble. Hey, we're in trouble. I said, ooh, ooh, you got me in the mood.
Gotta check. What's happening, everybody? Let's take a seat. Welcome. This is a good crowd right here. So many faces, so many excited faces. Can you guys feel the buzz? I'm feeling the buzz. I'm excited. This is hype. There it is. Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to RevUniversity. I also like to call it the event with the coolest nickname, RevU. I'm just really glad to have everybody in person. No masks. This is awesome. And BYU also just took off their mask mandates, so that's awesome. So I'm excited. All right, I don't like masks. There's just like, you can't see people's faces, and I love people's faces. This is great. And everyone's got name tags. If you don't have a name tag, get one real quick so that way we can know who you are. It's really cool to know people's names. All right. My name is Fonzie Slater. I'm a business operations specialist at RevRoad. At RevRoad, for those of you that don't know, we are a venture service firm. And the way I like to explain what that is, pretty much if you've seen the show Shark Tank, we're Shark Tank but cooler. Instead of just throwing money at entrepreneurs and hoping they know what to do with it, we will actually work with entrepreneurs side by side with them for 2 years. And we offer them any one of the 12 services we have. I mean, includes strategy, finance, marketing, all that good business stuff, So anyway, so we work with them for 2 years, help them build a team, whatnot. So we're way cooler than Shark Tank. It's just Shark Tank's bigger and more well known, right? A couple announcements to get started for you guys today. Bathrooms are just out these double doors right here to the right. The women are first, men are second. It's just always how it is. Sorry, guys. If you have any questions during the Q&A, just raise your hand, and we're gonna have some mic runners come to you with the mic, and just wait for the mic, just because we have some people online also, and if you speak without the mic, nobody online will be able to hear you, and that'll be so sad because they want to participate too, right? If you are joining us virtually today, enter your questions and comments, whatnot, in the chat box. We'll have someone monitoring that, and they'll ask the questions for you. Now, for the schedule, today, we're first going to have a presentation by the RevRoad CTO, Bruce Hassler. He'll be doing a training on how to expand your product and get more revenue, which is always cool. We always want more revenue, right? I think. Unless you're just... Nah, if you're running a business and don't want more revenue, you're wrong. You're just doing it wrong, right? So this one's really important. Take notes. And then we're going to have a builder series with Marilee and Jessica, who are founders of Gathre. That's a really cool name. I don't know if you guys know how that's spelled, but it took me a second. I was like, Gathre? Gathre. That's how you say it. And then, lastly, we're going to have a teaser for RevU in April, all right? So, I don't want to hold it up too much, so we're going to give a warm welcome to our good friend, Bruce Hassler, our co-founder and CTO of RevRoad. Let's give it up.
All right, good morning, guys. How are we doing? Okay, so thank you, Fonzie. Revenue is good. Okay, so today I want to talk about how we can expand our product, how we can get more revenue. I want to start off by covering the difference between what features and benefits are. Some of you might think that those are the same thing, but just want to go through a quick little exercise. In general, if we're talking about features, that's something that you build, okay? So we've got a picture of some engineers. So think engineers or people that write software code or some technical person. So if it's one of those people, then it's a feature that we're talking about. And if it's something that you sell, that's a benefit. And so when you go and you develop something that's a feature, you need to figure out how do you sell it. And usually that's like the marketing group or the sales group. And so even though we might be talking about the same thing, it's kind of couched or phrased differently. So to illustrate that, I want to talk about a few things. I have a few first products. I really like the nostalgia of first products. And so let's go through this. We'll do some examples. So here, we're going to hearken all the way back to 2001. This is when the first gen iPod was released. So that was before the iPhone. There's some like young people here. They're like, I don't know what that is. So some of the features that the very first iPod had was it had a total of 5 gig storage, had this little bitty screen, which was actually huge at the time, had 10 hours of battery life, okay? So those are the features. So who can remember when Steve Jobs got on stage, the tagline of the iPod? Andy can, I knew that you would. Okay, right here. Yes! 1,000 songs in your pocket. So why is that better than like 5 gigs? Like, what does 5 gigs mean, right? And so, you know, at the time, there were lots of MP3 players out there. Like, everybody remembers Microsoft Zune. Nobody remembers that because it was a failure. I think the specs were better than this, by the way. So I think its feature set was better, but they didn't do a good job articulating the benefits. So other benefit, this kind of relates to the battery life. You could go carry this around and listen to it all day without charging. So features versus benefits. Okay, so your turn. So who knows what this guy is? The Segway, the very first Segway, which was a complete failure. But that's okay. Here's some features. So 16 to 24 miles. You can tell that Segway did this and not Apple because their feature would have said just 24 miles, not like 16. So 16 to 24 mile range. It could hold 250 pounds, and it had these cool gyroscopic sensors. So who wants to take a crack at saying what the benefits of the Segway is based on these features? Okay, Bart. Save your feet. Okay, so I'm going to relate that to the 16 to 24 mile range. Cool, Brandon. White and nerdy. Isn't that a Weird Al song? Okay. Cool. So there's a couple. So you guys kind of get the hang of it. When I saw gyroscopic sensors, one of the cool things is it would like self-balance, right? So it means you don't fall on your face, which is a good benefit. So features versus benefits. Last one, local Utah company, first gen blend tech. Okay, you guys know the blend tech? Super cool blender. Okay, features, 1500 watt motor, has sealed controls and pre-programmed cycles. Okay, benefits, go. Okay, blend anything. So 1500 watt motor can blend just about anything. Sealed controls, anybody? Easy to clean, absolutely. So at the time, who's the industry leader when BlendTech launched? Vitamix, right? So they were the other blender company with a ginormous motor. So Vitamix had like pretty much all the market share for like big, huge blenders. They just have a dial, right? And so these last two things were specific to competing, right? So a lot of times you want to figure out what features and benefits do you want to have in relation to your competitors. Also, so pre-programmed cycles, they can go push one button and like go do your smoothie, right? Which BlendTech, you couldn't really do that. So those are features versus benefits. You guys missed like the biggest one. I guess it's related a little bit to what Seth said, that you can blend anything. So how about using the BlendTech to blend the first gen iPod? Okay, do you guys remember these? Will it blend?
But I'm ready for the latest. So out with the old, in with the new.
He has the cheesiest smile.
That's one smoking iPod. Don't breathe this. Now, Bev, now you know what I want for Christmas.
I assume Bev is his wife. Okay, so the BlendTech will blend that, right? So features versus benefits. So just to summarize, features what you build, benefits what you sell. Okay, so now that we know that, why do you think it's important to like do this product feature research or just product research? Okay, I'm gonna give you just 3 quick answers. First, it helps you figure out what features to build. You know, I would imagine that as BlendTech went to go build their blender, they're like, oh, how do we compete with this Vitamix thing? Oh, let's go put a big motor in it. Oh, they already have a big motor. What else do we do, right? So which features to build? Second, how much do I charge? So it's super important to be able to do that so you know how much to charge. And then using that information, you can figure out how do you prioritize that. And one of the differences between like building physical products, which we've been talking the most about in software, is you can launch a software product and you can add on later. It's hard to do that with other things, but it helps you to figure out how to prioritize. So next, what are some ways, and just shout them out, I'll repeat them. What are some ways that either you and your company receive feedback or that you've heard of other companies doing? So just shout them out. How do we get feedback? Surveys? Reviews? Jinx? Okay, what else? Ask. Who do we ask? Ask the user, okay. Sales team. Everybody's like saying all the right things based on what they're doing. Okay. Interviews again, okay. One-on-one. Cool. Okay, so here's a few. You guys got most. So support departments. So when you're a startup, you kind of do this by yourself, right? It's a great chance to find out what customers say. Only problem with this is you typically only hear the bad things from the support department, right? But good feedback loop nonetheless. Sales, Jason talked about that. emails, so you can get that from either support or from sales or anything else. Reviews we talked about, phone calls. There's this whole industry right now that's cropped up over the past few years called CX. For those that don't know, that stands for customer experience, right? That's a big thing. In fact, there's a company right in our backyard that just sold for $6.6 billion to SAP that does this thing, Qualtrics. You guys might have heard of it. So having a customer experience platform helps to fine-tune that. Even like you guys have been on sites and there's the little robot that pops up and says, hey, not only are you going to do surveys, but like now they're asking for like product feedback. So that's kind of in that realm of things. So now that we've talked about, and these are all ways that we have what's called a feedback loop, right? Now that we have like this 1,000-line list of features to do, what do we do with that, right? How do we evaluate all the things and figure out what to build? I'm going to oversimplify this a little bit. In software, one of the things that I talk to companies about a lot is coming up with some kind of framework. Because if you don't do that, it's just people's opinions versus other people's opinions. One of the more popular ones, company called Intercom developed. They're on the CX side of things as well. And it's called RICE score. So this simple equation, you take reach, which is typically that's measured in users. So how many users will your feature or your product affect? What is the impact? So impact is like how life-changing is that, right? So if you look at not having to charge your iPod all day, like that's pretty high impact, right? Effort, how long does it take to build the thing? And then confidence is like, so all of these things that we just talked about, they're all guesses, right? You're just kind of guessing at those. Hopefully they're educated guesses. Confidence is how sure are you in all those guesses. And so you take that, you run the formula, and you end up with a score. And the good thing about scores is they don't have feelings, right? So you get to, the things that are the most important will kind of trickle up to the top. And I think it's important to remember, if we did have a list of 1,000 things, like do this type of exercise for the, for the top 5% or for the most important things, because having a prioritized list of 1,000 things isn't super helpful. Having the top part of that list prioritized is pretty important. So does that make sense? Okay. So now that we've talked about all of these things, one of the awesome things about working at RevRoad is I get to work with lots of cool companies. One of the companies that I want to introduce here has done a great job of doing a lot of these principles, of listening to customers, of trying to figure out what are the right features to build. And so I want to welcome Sherry Packup from Persnickety Box. Everybody give her a round of applause. She's getting all her stuff. Oh, can we get a mic? Somebody? Thank you, Steve. Oh, there we go. Perfect. Hit the little bottom button right there. We should have practiced
Awesome.
that.
Hey,
Okay.
welcome. Are you guys awake? Okay.
Okay.
This is fun.
So thanks for coming up. So first of all, just so I think a lot of us know what Persnickety Box is, but for those that don't, kind of explain what it is, what the idea is, and then we'll talk about backstory and stuff later.
Okay, so in a Cliff Notes version, Persnickety Box is a simple way to get your photos off of your camera roll and into your hands in a photographic 4x4 print. Nobody likes uploading anymore, so we developed, with Bruce's help, a swiping feature similar to Tinder or Bumble. And so we launched Persnickety Box last March, and it's growing and it's doing great.
Woohoo!
Thank you.
Okay, awesome. So, and so a lot of you guys don't know this. So Shari runs still runs a very successful print business called Persnickety Prints. So how did you go from that to, I want to do this Persnickety Box app thingy?
So everything that Bruce just talked about. So if you guys are owning, one bonus of having a small business, and we're all working, 80-hour weeks, is that you can kind of have your hands in everything. And listening to customers has always been my number one. So if we're talking about building revenue right now, how many of you guys are customer word of mouth important to your business? Do you guys rely on that a lot? Yeah, totally, right, Marilee? And so word of mouth, really the first years of Persnickety Prints, I started that back in 2010. It's in Orem. and we specialize. So I don't do everything, but we print silver halide photographic prints. And then we evolved into Christmas cards and calendars and gifting. But we really don't do much other than that because we know that we stay true to what we really do well. And then we collaborate with other people that do what they do well. Well, in doing this, in creating this business, I didn't go to business school. It just was logical to me to make sure and ask the customer what they wanted. And I created persnickety prints just because I wanted a 12 by 12 photographic print to scrapbook my baby's photos. And I learned Photoshop, and I didn't want to use paper and glue anymore. And Costco was $3.99, and so I made it $1.99 in it. And it blew up just off of that one print. But then as we are in small business, times change, things change. People's Instagram came out. People wanted to print 4x4s. People wanted to print smaller things. And we can pivot quickly as a small business because we don't have to go through all the corporate loopholes, which makes it fun. And so if you're on that line with your customer and listening to them, you can really be like cutting edge and forward thinking and letting your customer drive the business. And when you allow them to speak and you listen to them, they actually have some investment in your company. They really are like, oh, you listened to me and now you're gonna offer this, and then their loyalty becomes that much more. So I always have done that with persnickety prints. And then moving into persnickety boxes, the customer. They wanted a way to get the photos off their phone. They didn't want to upload anymore. They wanted it quick and simple. Nobody has time to scrapbook anymore. And so that's how we evolved.
Cool. And for those that haven't looked, so ratings for persnickety prints, if you go on Google, like you said reviews, I think that was one of it, like they're really good. And so it is a good way to do that. So and it was great helping to build persnickety box. And one of the things you've done that's really cool is even after releasing it, after listening to customers and releasing persnickety box, I know recently our development group has been working on some new features. How did you figure out which of those new features to do?
Well, so this is a photo app, right? And from my marketing mind, I don't want to. How many of you guys take pictures with your phone, right? Pretty much everyone. Do you guys filter them after or edit them ever, and maybe print them? Maybe your wives do. Maybe. Well, inside of this app, I knew, and working with Bruce, we built and awesome Jake over here. We built the foundation, the framework, and then, like Bruce said, it's like, well, what do we add? What do people want, and how much is that going to cost? And so I'm always surveying customers. I literally read. It's been 12 years, and I read every single customer email almost. And I finally gave it up about 2 years ago to let somebody else respond, but I still read it. So. It's a little bit of an obsession. But if you think about life and your connection with other people and other human beings, we don't know what our spouse wants, our child wants, or needs unless we ask them. And we have to hear them. And so social media has gotten a little bit more complicated with hearing and having that really tight connection because there's so much of it. But we call customers at Persnickety Prints. If there's an issue, we have that one-on-one conversations with them. When I go to events and speaking, I want to know the customers by name. I follow them on social if they tag us. We haven't spent much in advertising at all. It's literally customer referral to grow Persnickety Prints and then now Persnickety Box. But recently, like you said, we have looked at filters, like photo filters. Well, we don't really want to build a photo filter. We don't want to have to manage that. So why not work with another company that already does that well? And so Bruce and Jake recently have been working with a company we just started yesterday called Pick Tap Go. And I reached out, and his name's Doug, and he's in California, and we're integrating with him. And I asked him, great, we'll send our people to you to filter, and you can pop them back to us to swipe them into our box. But I want the customer to actually have a say in it. And so if you go to Persnickety Box Instagram, you'll see my very last post was yesterday. And I did a question. I'm like, tell us in the comments which photo filter app you use. Because I want them to feel, and a lot of people said Pick Tap Go, some said Lightroom and different things on their phones. But I want them to feel like they have a say in it and they're building this business and adding the features too.
Cool. Really good example. Any other words of wisdom you want to share with us, Shari? While you've got center stage.
How much time do we have?
Okay, so let's skip on to the end. So one thing that we wanted everybody the opportunity to do, Shari was nice enough to, create this code for us called Swipe. It helps us to get persnickety box at a cheaper price, which is super cool.
Yeah,
so
check it out.
thanks for doing that. You can just scan that with your phone, so you can do that while we do Q&A. So what questions do you have for either of us? And wait for a microphone. So over here. We have no mic runners.
I was wondering, so it sounded like her business was very largely based off of referrals. So I was wondering if you can go into the incentive, any incentive structures you have for referrals. Do you find that giving people cash bonuses for referrals work? Do you find that giving them anything will actually help them to give you referrals, or do you have other what mechanisms do you have in place that you really think drive the referrals the best?
Yeah, that's a really good question. What product do you have, or what's your business?
It's called Volt's Method Piano Lessons. We teach piano lessons in the homes of people around Utah.
Okay, cool. So with that one, you could say, I'll give your next piano lesson free if you send us 5 people. I think it kind of depends on the business structure for sure. I actually don't pay. I have a hard time. We've all tried to deal with affiliates and paying people to share. It doesn't work for me. It doesn't feel authentic. So to be honest, I just ask. It's so weird and it feels awkward at first, but people are happy. If they have a good experience, they're happy to share. You just have to ask. And so how many of you guys go to Mexico? Have you been to Mexico recently? How many times do you go? I just thought of this, where you're at the resort and they're like, please leave a review on TripAdvisor and say Juan sent you, and the waiter's just hustling as fast as he can. And I leave my trip review advice every time. I don't have time to do that, but I do because he just hustled and he asked me. And so I just feel like just asking. I haven't really paid anyone to do it, but everything we ship, so if you guys have a shippable company or like you have a child that comes to your home for piano, like give them something tangible if you can, and I'm happy to help you print it. But every time we ship a box to anybody, we have an ask in the box. So because why not? You're shipping a free mailer, like add things to it. So like with this, 20% off to come back, or share $5 off for you and a friend, and here's a code. And so we're always having them come back, and we don't ever miss an opportunity to put something in our box when we ship it.
Yeah, and those reviews are actually important too. One of the things that we just added a couple weeks ago, right, Jake, was we weren't asking in the app for people to leave reviews, and that's something that we added because that actually helps the App Store search rankings and those types of things. Same thing applies for Google ratings and stuff like that. So the more those are kind of indirect referrals as well, because it's helping you get more exposure. And
it adds credibility. So those of you that have websites, put those reviews front facing. People aren't really looking at the reviews on Facebook and Instagram and Google, so copy them, put them on your website. Our latest reviews, and show people, give yourself credibility from other people's experience.
Cool. Other questions? Oh, back here.
So what role has social media played in both of your companies?
You want to go?
I don't know if I'm qualified to answer this for RevRoad. It's more of an Andrea thing. But I think in general, social is good for, at least in our business. So LinkedIn is probably the best social platform for a company like RevRoad as we invest in startup companies, because it's more B2B, it's more business oriented. So that makes more sense than doing a lot of things on Instagram. We do things on Instagram, but it's not just, that's not where our audience is the most. And so for us, it's about being able to connect with other entrepreneurs and things like that. So for us, it's more LinkedIn. For Sharia, Instagram is probably huge for you guys, right?
Marilee and Gathre can talk about that. They're killing it on Instagram, and I don't know what your return is on that anymore. I know, when did you guys start Gathre? 2014. I started Persnickety Prints 2010 when Instagram launched, and it wasn't owned by Facebook yet, and it was amazing because it was back when, I won't get into it, but now you're just fighting for people's attention, whether it be, and you have to kind of go where your customer is. And so it's Facebook, it's TikTok, it's Pinterest. We actually, I don't always open my phone and go straight to Pinterest, but if I look at my analytics, Pinterest is actually a big one for us. And so just watch where your customers are. And yeah, social helps. But it's, it's just trying to get through the noise and get your brand out there, which is kind of hard. I guess.
Yep, cool. Good question. I think that's all the time we have for questions. So, anyway, thank you guys. It's been great talking to you. Thank you, Shari, for coming up.
Thanks, Bruce.
Did you want to do your gift now or later?
Oh, I was just going to give this to Gathre, who are here. This is a fun thing that we do with Persnickety Box. So if you have a business or even a storefront, so what we did is we went to their Instagram account, and because these are 4x4 prints in the Persnickety Box, and these are photographic prints, so we don't use ink. They're darkroom printed, if anyone remembers film. But these look amazing, and they're just from their Instagram account. So there's a way you can actually get into the back end and download their Instagram feed, and then we printed their beautiful feed into these little prints.
Yeah, it helps that they have a great Instagram feed too.
And they can, put this as a vision board, or they can put it up in their store and show customers what other people have shared. There's a lot of ways you can use Persnickety Box. So we printed this box for you guys. And one thing, like Bruce talked about, is adding revenue. I think add-on products are huge right now. Like you'll notice when you check out on any online platform, they're always adding on. And so we have added on for Persnickety Box 2 different types of photo albums. Now, again, I don't want to manufacture these, so I work with another company that gets these for us. They manufacture our logos on it, and we do marketing for them, and we collaborate with them. And then we have another album, and then we're just getting ready to launch these little acrylic frames. And so our add-on products do really, really well in the app because people want to just check out with one click.
Cool.
I just went off on that tangent. Okay.
Awesome.
But this is for you guys.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. That's it. We'll see you.
All right. Thank you, Bruce and Sherry. That was amazing. All right, got all that. I love that. I wanted to review a couple of things that I got from both their trainings. From Bruce, for example, he talked about features and benefits. Got me back to the days when I was doing summer sales. Yes, I've been one of those guys that goes around, knocks on your door, says, "Sorry to bug you. My name is Fonzie. I'm with Vivid Smart Home." You probably see me around the area. Anyways, some of us, that's just how we pay for college. So we got to do it whether you hate us or not, whatever. We just got to get through it. I'm doing it again this summer, actually. So that's that. But I loved what he talked about. And one of the things that, they always drilling us in sales is that, customers, they buy off of the benefits and not so much the features. Features are amazing, obviously, and they give the benefits, but the benefits are where, people really get emotionally connected. And so I was amazed that Bruce, we did that exercise where we're always talking about the benefits, yes. So that's really important to get through that. Sherry, I loved what she talked about, ask. Because just a couple weeks ago, I only left this review because I was asked to. I went on a cruise to the Bahamas with some of my friends, just a quick little weekend getaway. Definitely needed it. I was really depressed after a project in school. And I was like, I needed some time to get away. My friends were like, "Hey, let's go on a cruise." I was like, "Let's do it. Doesn't matter how much it costs. We'll figure out the financial issues later." We went, spent a lot of money, but worth it. But while we're there, the service asked me, that on the last day, we're like, "Hey, how was the service?" We're like, "That was fantastic." Okay, first and foremost, we probably stayed at the restaurants for like 3 hours every night, and they just kept bringing out the food. I mean, whatever we asked, they just kept bringing it. I was like, man, these guys, I'm sorry, but we paid a lot of money to be there, so we're going to take full advantage. And then at the end, he asked, "Hey, I know my team's worked really hard with you guys. I hope you guys have loved the service. Please just leave us a review." And all of us vowed that we would. We were like, "Guys, every single one of us, we're going to shout them out. What are their names? Write it down." And we did, all of us. It was a big deal. We put it in a group chat. If somebody didn't do it, it was a brawl. We were going to jump them. So we all did it. So, yeah, just ask. I guess that's amazing. So I just remember that principle from a couple weeks ago. Now we're going to have a builder series. And we're excited to have Jessica and Marilee with Gathre. And we're going to have Bree Ray will introduce both of them and just have a little question session, I guess. I don't know what you call that. Yeah, an interview. That's what you call it. That's the word. English is my second language, so sometimes it gets complicated. But let's give it up for Bree.
Welcome back to RevU, everybody. Thank you for being here. My name is Bree Ray, and we have two amazing women with us here today, so I'm super excited. Jess and Mare are best friends and each mothers of 4. They started Gathre in 2014. As busy moms always seeking to strike the balance between maintaining a beautiful yet livable home, they noticed a void in the market and so began their journey to build a lifestyle brand catered to the modern, striving woman who cares about good design but won't sacrifice function to get it. All of Gathre's products are intentionally created to make life prettier and easier for the woman who values being present with her loved ones. At its core, Gathre's why has always been to make a space for family, for messes, for connection, for exploring. Put simply, space for the worthwhile. So let's give a warm welcome to Marilee and Jess. Welcome.
Thanks, Bree.
I feel like we're so far apart. Let me scoot up to the edge of my chair here. I'm so happy you're here. Tell us about the beginning, the early days. Where did Gathre come from? Where did the inspiration start?
Ooh, good question. Well, first, real quick, we make like leather products at its core, leather mats, leather things that are wipeable and waterproof for moms, because spit up, you know, the end. But we started, I was a young mom who had little kids, and we lived in a small apartment without AC. So when we were in college and we didn't have money, we would just eat on a little blanket that my husband's grandma had given us, and my kids would spill spaghetti sauce, and like, of course, we were washing it every other day. And I was like, there has to be something that can just clean, like, it's so much easier than this for moms to clean up. And my husband came home from a work trip with like a big swatch of leather for shoes. He was looking at some shoes overseas. And it was like a bazillion packs of just different colors of leather. And I was like, wait, can it just be leather? Can we do something wipeable and leather? And so from there, we just did a Kickstarter and jumped in, and it's been a good ride.
So the first Kickstarter was 2014.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that. What made it successful? What did you do right? What would you do differently? Do you recommend Kickstarter still? Tell me more.
Yeah. Do you want me to take this one?
Yeah.
Okay, so Kickstarter was, I feel like, huge to our beginnings and our success. It really allowed us, I think this was spoken to earlier, to build a community, and people felt like they were along the journey. I think it's a really great tool to, you know, get people in early, they get to help make the decisions, they're part of the ride, they get the excitement, and they want to share it because they're invested. So I think we did a really good job just trying to, again, use social media to kind of build that campaign out and get people excited and on board with what we were building. And I don't know, things that we would do different. I don't know that anything comes to mind exactly. I think it was just like...
You did it perfectly.
No,
everything
not
was perfect.
but like we did the best we could. And I think that would be my advice to anyone doing Kickstarter. You do the best you can. You build, you know, a campaign that feels right for you and your brand, and you just run at it. You do your best. So,
what were some of the steps you took intentionally to set yourself up for the most success within the Kickstarter? I know on the phone you mentioned you worked with an agency and a few other key components to your Kickstarter campaign.
yeah, so we did 2 Kickstarters. Our first one was very bootstrapped. We just were giving, you know, product to anyone we could, any influencer we could find on Instagram that would be willing to talk to us. And in 2018, we did a second Kickstarter when we were launching into some more products, specifically yoga mats. So we were taking this leather surface that we had already made with all these mats, and now we wanted to try something new. So we did a second Kickstarter, and that's where we did some work with an ad agency for the first time. And I feel like it was interesting coming at it a second time. You've learned a lot, so you use some of those same things that you used the first time and kind of repurpose it and make it better. But I feel like it was a lot of the same principles. It was just trying to get people to share. We sent out so much free product, like so much, to just get it in people's homes, because when they can feel it and they can use it, they become part of the story, and they're just way more invested because they see why they want it, you know. And anyway, I don't know if you have anything.
Yeah, I would say too, for the second go around, we did a first initial video that like just didn't jive. And I feel like if you're launching something like Kickstarter, you have to nail it. So we redid the whole thing. We scrapped it and just started all over. So that would be like, trust your gut and like make sure it's perfect. before you go in?
I'm sure there was plenty of gut trusting in the early days. Talk to me about the challenges that you faced as early founders and early entrepreneurs.
I mean, what isn't there? So much. I feel like at that time it was like we were folding all of the mats in our in-laws' garage, and so our kids were sleeping in pack and plays in like my mother-in-law's kitchen, and we were up all night. So I think the like exhaustion in the early days, like the physicality of it, and it slowly moved to be I feel like a little more emotional and team like. Yeah. But in the early days, I think a lot of it was figuring out why our people are here, what we've talked about. Why are they buying? What's our brand? What is our message? What's driving people? And having the capacity to know where to put your time and your money and your effort when it's all so thin.
So what about now? Now Gathre is one of the fastest growing companies in Utah, which is amazing. And what challenges do you face now as more seasoned entrepreneurs and more seasoned founders, specifically female founders, in a very male-dominated space?
Those are amazing questions. I feel like like Mary said, the stakes are higher now. And we've worked really hard to build a brand and a team. And, we don't have the background necessarily of running a company. And so there's a lot of failure. There's a lot of making mistakes and trying again. And so it is a lot more emotional. And I feel like right now, having such a big social presence, has been such a gift and such a great way to grow our business. But it's not without challenges, knowing how to navigate real human problems that our community is experiencing, from wars and racism to political uprising and differences of opinion. All of these things have been brought to the forefront, and we've had to really navigate, I feel like in the last 2 years especially, why are we here? What are we doing? What is the end goal of Gathre? It's obviously we're creating products, but for us it's a lot bigger than that. And how are we going to do that through our platform? How are we going to bring goodness and light and really try and be a voice of goodness in such a hard world? So anyway, those are some of the challenges we're facing.
No, I love
currently.
it. Can I ask what you've landed on what the purpose is and the mission and what that is that pushes you further past what may be a more comfortable place to stay?
Yeah, I mean, internally, our brand values to go with Gathre are grace and goodness. And so I think that's internally a big, we want to give each other the benefit of the doubt. We want to work really hard, and we want to put light out into the world and help people where there is so much separation and tension. We want to help people have that connection, get that moment to be together. So I think that's a big driving force. And then walking that line of being able to do that amongst all parties and, being sensitive to the differences of opinion. So
the two of you are incredibly busy. I would say borderline superhuman. You both have 4 kids. You're running an incredibly successful business, and your best friends and business partners, which we know can be rocky at times. So how do you do it? How do you find the balance let's start with work-life balance, yes.
Man, that's, yeah. Everyone wants to know, how do you balance everything?
We're all curious.
Yep. Well, first of all, we both wrote this down when we were preparing for this interview, and it was this slogan that we've kind of referenced over the years, first things first. And for us as mothers and as women of faith, those are the pillars of our lives. And so if we can step back from, the crazy demands of a business and really focus on what matters and get those things taken care of first, everything else falls into a place a lot better. It doesn't mean it's without, difficult moments and bumps and hard things, but we feel more equipped to handle the give and take of everything that's on our plates. And then I think secondly, I would just say you can't do everything well. And for us, we've had to build a scaffolding of support. We have people who help with our children occasionally, and we have supportive home environments with husbands that support us, and friends and family and all the things. It really is a family effort, I feel like. And so that's enabled us to kind of prioritize when we need to, having a support system.
My first thought was, I feel like I have yet to regret, I really just wish I would have pushed the business harder. like most of the time my regrets are I like killed myself. You know, like that came at an expense to my family and my relationships, and was that worth it? And so like looking back for that work-life balance, which is the worst word ever, it's just a juggle, you know, some plates fall and some you keep spinning. I think I have yet to regret like taking time to make sure we're healthy and sane and our family is strong and I have a good connection with whatever moves me or whatever, you know, that tends to in the long run be like I've yet to regret it. So trying to remember that because it's easy to let the business run you.
Yes.
Is all.
Yes, I think that's a great review of finding a good work-life balance. So call back to Bruce and Shari. Talk to me about the partnership and the friendship. How do you do business, remain friends, and keep a supportive and functional relationship on both ends of that?
I feel like that's a question that we get often because partnerships, I feel like, you know, in general, don't always go super well. And so backstory, Marilee and I met through mutual friends, and I remember being like, oh my gosh, this girl is amazing, and I want to be friends with her. And she's just like so full of light, and I just knew that like there was something about her that I wanted to learn from. And I feel like that's just been the story of our friendship is I want to learn from Marilee. She's an amazing person. And I feel like, I don't know, always digging into that like that's the most important thing is that desire, that friendship. It makes, I don't know, the daily decisions of how we run our business and other things feel really insignificant. Like that is the first priority is I always want to maintain my friendship with her. She makes my life better. She makes me a better person. She helps me to grow. And I feel like in real life, we talked about this on the way here. Sometimes that looks like, you know, giving ourselves space to have our moments of, she has a really strong opinion about that. I'm going to let her have a strong opinion about that, and I'm going to maybe take a back seat here. And just kind of, I don't know, allowing each other to really be present in our different ways.
And like that give and take Jess talked about, I had a son who had a pretty serious health condition that required us to move to Seattle for 6 months for chemotherapy and things. And I just left and I just trusted her and she ran it. And that's like the true essence of give and take, you know, knowing that she valued that I needed a break and she was there to do it. And then like, hopefully I can return the favor when she needs it. And that priority is for each other first. And I would just add over communicate. Just be so clear. You can't write enough emails and be like very clear about either roles or how you're feeling because it just helps to be on the same page.
Yes. Talk to me more about being female founders. Are there any experiences that you can recall that have been challenging or obstacles that you have specifically had to overcome because you are a female founder?
That's a great question.
Woo! I mean, in a room full of mostly men, I feel like
Give
there are. What'd you say?
I said, give it to him.
Oh, no. I mean, our men have been, like, our husbands have been the greatest support. So I don't want to, like, sound any way derogatory, but we have encountered situations where we're trying to get money at a bank or, you know, and I feel like people just don't take you as seriously, like a little dismissive, or sometimes at, like, I can think of, like, some trade shows or things like, oh, how cool you run a business. And they think it's, like, a little, like, I don't know, which it is a small business. I'm not saying we're anything fancy, but I think that has been an obstacle of learning how to, like, hold your own. I'm a pretty, like, reserved person, so learning how to have a seat at the table. Like, we're here. I mean, Shari totally exemplified that up there, just talking. Like, we're here and we're running a business too, and we can sit and talk with the rest of y'all. I don't know. That would be my gut, is to lean into it.
Yeah, I love that. I don't think I would add much.
That's great. You talked a little bit about raising capital. Do you have specific advice or tips and tricks to give female founders and entrepreneurs in general about raising capital?
We talked about this prior too. Like it's kind of an opportunity to really lean into your femaleness, especially in right now. And this is kind of maybe to that point. It's hard because you don't want to be a quota to be filled and be there, you know, bucket female founder too. That's getting the funding for that reason. But it's also such an important opportunity for women to stand up and to acknowledge that they have something to give to the world and that they deserve to be there, and to lean into that story, because you're paving the way for so many other women who, you know, might not have that opportunity if you don't. So it's, yeah.
Girl.
It's great.
I love that. And I would just say too, like, our grandmothers didn't have that opportunity, and I would hope for like my daughter, Jess's daughter, that we can like be that voice. I think in terms of like nitty gritty, just thinking outside the box. Like if that didn't work, try another place. Or if this wasn't a good fit, like reach out to someone who has taken capital, or, you know, network, all those things that you all know, but just don't let the no's keep you down. Just keep trying to find another option.
Were there any pivotal moments or crucial decisions that you made early on that really impacted where the business is now?
Lots.
These are such good questions.
Such good questions. I feel like one of the things that is unique to what we did early on was really creating a brand. And we have a lot of friends who are also entrepreneurs who have taken a different route, and it was hard sometimes to kind of, I don't know, we weren't growing maybe at the same pace, or we weren't hitting certain, you know, marks at the same time, and I feel like it was quicker wins for some of our friends. And so we really had to stay steadfast to, okay, we're building something bigger than just, you know, selling something. We wanted to build a brand. We wanted to build a story. We wanted to build a community. And so time and time again, we really tried to lean into that and be more patient, I think, for the fruits of our labors. But it's never been a regret. It's never, you know, proven us wrong. We've just really tried to lean into brand and, yeah.
And I think the same thing. We've had people who are super lean startups in our friend circles, and we've tried to build a team so that we can have some work-life balance. And that has also been like a long-term play. I feel like a pivotal decision that we could be maybe taking home more money, or we could be like launching a lot more product a lot quicker, but instead we want to make sure we can still be moms and have the kind of life we want. And so that means, here, you get to do customer service. I don't know how you've done that for so long, answering every email. Woo, amazing. That was a quick one for me to hand off. You can answer all those emails. Anyway, just making sure that you're in line with what feels good and what your long-term goals are, and then sticking true to that.
We've talked about this a little bit already, but outside of putting first things first, what are other principles that you use to guide your career and your life?
Man, deep questions. I might think on that one for a second if you have some.
Yes. I mean, for a business perspective, we have been really lean in that lean startup mode. Like pretty frugal, I'd say, and just pouring money back in. Like we didn't take a salary for the first like 3 or 4 years. We were just bootstrapped and really, really poor. and that was like a specific choice that we made to guide our future. And I think first things first, I think investing in people over things, like we talked about, our team matters, and we've tried really hard to make that like a community, a family there. And then personally, I think just in that first things first, just knowing that like if I have faith in God and we believe in God, then if I trust him, then that path will look like it's supposed to look. And sometimes we both are like, white flag, we're over this. We don't want to do this anymore. It's too hard. We can't fire more people. Like, why is it so hard? But then like when you listen and you take a moment, like we know that God wants us to do this. And so we're going to lean in and we're going to keep doing it and learn and fail and be challenged. And that's like so worth it. So I think at its core, that's like really why we're here. It's because we feel like we're called to do this, and we're going to keep plowing through.
I love that. I would only add that just vulnerability. I think it's like everyone's talking about it right now. Brené Brown has pioneered such wonderful conversations around vulnerability. But I think as leaders and as trying to grow a team, something that we've never done before, we just keep coming back to this place of like, well, is it, you know, better to fake it and pretend that we know everything and that we can do this all ourselves, or to be vulnerable and to let people in and trust our team and really, you know, let ourselves be seen as imperfect but trying our best. And that's all we want from our team, so we need to model that. So I think vulnerability, like that's something that guides a lot of our decision making.
Jess is so good at that.
No.
Yeah.
I love that. And I feel like adding vulnerability into everything that you do also helps develop stronger teams, because there's more of a trust there and a humanness there, yeah? So as you guys have gone through all these phases of building teams and shrinking teams and building teams, what are some key components or characteristics in people that you look for as you're adding people to your team?
Ooh,
I mean, Mayor spoke to this, but grace and goodness are our brand pillars, and it's a question we ask everyone that interviews with us is, tell us a time in your life where you've had to exhibit one of these qualities, and mostly because I think when we can understand, on a human level, like what people can do in hard situations, it allows us to see them in a new light and to understand what they could bring to our team. So I feel like those are like 3 really important things that we look for.
And I would just add like a sense of humility. I feel like if you get a teachable person, you can shape and mold them into what you need. But if there is that like resistance, then it's pretty tricky. So I think as we've hired and seen how those characteristics kind of can diverge, that humility has become pretty important as you grow a team.
Can I shoot that question back to you? What are some moments where you have had to implement those brand pillars in your own life?
Oh, man.
Every day?
Yeah.
I didn't prep them for
Too
this
many.
question, so.
Too many times to count. Man. So there's obviously, I think grit is like the easiest as an entrepreneur to speak to. So I won't speak to that one because I feel like if you're an entrepreneur, you have to be gritty. You have to be willing to jump in and solve all the problems all the time. I feel like maybe grace is something that I've had to really try and master because, sometimes as leaders and owners of a company, when a mistake happens or something gets off course, it's really easy to be upset, like especially when you have so much skin in the game. It's like, man, like this was a really big mistake, and like, wow, this really hurts. But I feel like every time we've been able to offer grace to our employees for big things, little things, whatever it is, it really allows you to forge those connections and those relationships even deeper. So I feel like that's been pretty, soul building.
And her middle name is Grace, so it's a perfect fit. Goodness was something I thought of, just like that this is a bigger picture. Like each of our businesses or endeavors have a bigger, broader perspective. There's something that we all need to learn, another piece that needs to learn, the connections we need to make. It's all about a part of a bigger plan. So I feel like learning and leaning into that. First, we shared a lot about like our faith, and then it COVID happened and everything fell apart, and then we kind of like secluded, like what is the word I'm looking for? Retreated back from that. And I feel like I would want to like make sure that is a driving force. There's a purpose behind what we're doing, and that you don't let the bumps keep you from that purpose.
Speaking of bumps, wow, the last few years have been bumpy, okay? And I know we've all been feeling it. So looking forward, what opportunities do you see on the horizons for entrepreneurs?
So many. I mean, there's so many problems to solve and so many real human things that need our help and our voices and our goodness. And so I feel like, there's such a wide landscape from offering products that are solving problems, obviously, or just being a platform to help others. And, even as entrepreneurs ourselves, like we often want to find opportunities to help other women who are starting, businesses. And so I feel like there's just like so much to be done, so much good to be done. I don't know. I know that's vague, but I feel like world is your oyster. There's so much good.
And if we were to talk to like our kids, we would want them to know like you could start anything, and whatever realm you're interested in, there is an option for that and a need, and like bring your voice. And I think that this has taught us a lot, but it's been really fun to see our kids learn from they were in the beginning folding mats with us, and they've been there every photo shoot, and they know like, oh, you're at Gathre, or they, So I think it's been fun to see them like learn from that, and I hope that they like aren't shy away from being an entrepreneur and knowing that the world is their oyster.
The world is their oyster. I love it. I want to make sure we have time for audience questions, but before we get there, you're both very humble people. But I would like to know, what is next for Gathre? What's exciting that's happening? Don't hold back. Give us all the goods. What is upcoming?
Woo!
I feel like we're kind of at, I don't know, a new point within our company. like we've talked about, we started with mats. That was kind of like our foundational product. And over the years, we've really moved into home goods and kind of creating products that we want as mothers in our own homes. But we're kind of on the cusp of really launching into like a full lifestyle brand and trying to, you know, find those products that speak to us in all rooms of your home, all walks of life, like just really trying to build a lifestyle that feels, I don't know, special to our customers. So, yeah.
Yeah, like furniture pieces and maybe more like baby good products, just in that realm of like hard goods, I would say, instead of just like sticking to the mats and the leather. We're trying to like branch out.
Branching out. So, men in the audience, I know Valentine's Day is past, and if you missed it, there's still time to make up for it. We have plenty of Gathre products coming for you. And in addition, there's always half birthdays, so if you need to do that, go right ahead. We will open it up for audience questions now. So if you do have a question, please pop your hand in the air. We're going to start with some online questions, and then we will run a microphone to you.
You guys did great. Thank you so much.
You're kind.
So 2 questions online. The first one is, which marketing channels did you leverage to gain traction when the business first started?
I feel like Instagram, social media was huge for us. Obviously, we talked about Kickstarter. I think since then, we've obviously branched into a lot of different things because you don't ever want to put your business only in one, what is the term that I'm looking for?
Bucket,
one
silo,
bucket, yeah. And so we've kind of tried to diversify where we're getting that marketing, you know, feel from. But I feel like social media was kind of our pivotal first step.
For sure.
Incredible. And then the second question, what was the process that you went through in order to create your first product?
Those were some good days. We got a bunch of leather samples. It was so bad if you could have seen the first one. The edges were like totally straight and square, and they just looked so rough. And then the colors were woo, and it didn't feel good. So it was like a long time of just different new leather swatches. Okay, like let's curve that edge, and let's sew around it, and like first we just packaged them in poly mailers because it was free and cheap, and then we moved over to boxes. So I think that beginning process was like adjusting the size and designing on our living room floor and in the garage, and it was minimum viable product. You know, we just like needed to get something out there, and then with time and with more funds, we were able to really finesse and perfect our product. But those first rounds are classic, vintage. Yes. More questions.
Hi. You ladies are wonderful. Thank you for being here and sharing. I have a weird question, maybe.
No.
Why did you want to spell Gathre the way that you spelled it?
Oh, that's the best question of all. Yeah. Who was it? Fonzie, you're not off. Gathre. We get all sorts of great options. We were just searching for an Instagram handle and website that was the same. Like, we couldn't get a domain, and we knew we wanted the word Gathre. So we were like, I mean, theater, how else could we spell it? And so the RE switch was a quick, easy win. But it is a little confusing. So that's a great question. It looks great. Pronounced Gathre is what we should add.
So yours is a great story, and I'll plan to share the video with my own modest but worldwide social media audience. The question I'd like to ask, though, is a little bit personal. What was the outcome of your child with the chemotherapy, and how's that going?
You're so sweet. Thank you for asking. It went well. He got a bone marrow transplant, and he was 1 year old, and his older brother was the bone marrow match. So now they're identical blood twins, and he is doing so well. He turned 4 and is in preschool and just thriving, and So thanks to Jess for holding down the fort. Little do. Like, she doesn't get enough credit for all that she did. One woman running the whole band. So it was incredible. But thank you for asking.
So as you think about continuing to increase your scale, are you thinking about other channels beyond social media? For instance, would you ever consider being part of some sort of a marketplace, imagine Amazon or any of those?
I feel like in the last, 2 years, we've really tried to expand our wholesale and retail partnerships. We've done some with Crate and Barrel and Anthropology and some of these bigger flagship stores because our consumer is there, But to your point, there are some marketplaces that we haven't tried, Amazon being one of them, but we are exploring that right now currently, actually. And for us, it's always been brand. We never want to sacrifice brand. So it hasn't made sense up till now, but we are exploring, some limited offerings there. See what
Who
happens.
doesn't want Prime shipping?
Yes.
2-day. Yes.
Hi, lady. Oh, is this on?
Yes.
Okay. That was so great. Is there any tips, tricks, or don't do it for, you talked about you had a lot of success in getting the products into homes free.
Mhm.
I know that's like a huge question, but if you could just sum up if there's anything you learned or any programs you followed, because that's a doozy.
I just think it's completely worth it if you can, I think it's something that has a bigger return, like we talked about earlier, getting just referrals. And so if you can get product into people's hands, I think it goes a lot longer or more farther than maybe just investing in ads initially, right? Like, because you might not have the funding to really bring that to fruition. But if you can afford it, and you can get a big round of product that you can just go seed to people, I think it goes a long way. And again, just like finding opportunities to get in your community. I feel like one of the things that Marilee did before we even did our Kickstarter was just going to like little pop-up
like a weekend, Saturday.
Yeah, just like little places to sell your product and to really get people bought in early. Those things like went really far for us and really sowed the beginnings of that word of mouth and referral, which is one of our biggest, to this day, drivers of revenue is word of mouth. So I think it's definitely worth.
Yeah. And like granularly, I would say just like finding good people who match your brand ethics and your brand values and have the right aesthetic or are going to take good picture, like some of those nitty gritty that are basic, but just try and suss that out and make sure they're a good fit before you just throw a bunch of product away. Because that is tricky. And like Shari said, we don't often give product for a fee. Like we tend to work with people who are like, oh, I love this, I would use it, instead of like, pay me $1,000 and I'll post about it,
Yeah.
So it's tricky.
So as you're in the process of expanding your business, are you sourcing products and offering them, or are you manufacturing your own product?
Yeah, we design and make all of our products in-house.
And how are you handling that expanded demand?
It's been tricky with COVID especially.
Maybe one of our biggest pain points.
Yeah, I know.
Just because logistics and freight are a nightmare right now, and we do produce everything overseas. So we are looking for ways to bring all of our production back. We started doing local production. We moved overseas a few years ago, and we're trying to find ways to bring it closer to home to kind of mitigate some of those risks and hard things to maneuver.
Yeah, that's a very good question. It's been a fine process. Lots of learning, lots of failures. I think having a good product team who knows what they're doing, who has had experience in manufacturing, has been helpful, and making sure that we're hitting codes and producing in safe environments overseas and all of that. But like Jess said, ideally we need to get on shore again. Good questions.
Any more questions? Oh, another one.
Okay, you don't have to share anything specific, right? But we haven't heard anything related to revenue at all. Do you have a revenue goal you're trying to hit this year? I'm just curious.
Ooh. Hey, president over there. My husband's in the audience, and he's our president. Do I have the go ahead to say any of that? Okay,
or something
we gotta
related
shake
to
of the head.
how big are you trying to grow? Something to that effect.
I don't know what I can say. I do feel like we have some ambitious goals. We're trying to double our revenue this year. We've been able to really maintain a very strong growth over the last 7 years. And for a time there, we were doubling every year. The last 2 years have been a little harder, but we are on our path to kind of be back in that place, and we're excited.
And like in terms of team, I think there's 25 in our Gathre team and about 15 in our shipping side that we ship on in our office in the warehouse in the back. So we're at about, is that 50? Can I do math? 40? Woo! Yeah, just growing that team. But
Thanks, you guys. Appreciate that.
All right, before we close, the last question we like to ask our founders is, what is something fun your success has allowed you to do?
I love that. Okay, well, I have a little 8-year-old, and for anyone, maybe this is the wrong demographic, but grew up on The Parent Trap with Lindsay Lohan.
Yes.
Yes, you know when she goes and sees her mom at the photo shoot with the wedding dress, and she's putting on the hat. It's like this magical moment. That was like my favorite movie growing up. But I have an 8-year-old, and she came to a photo shoot for the first time last week. It's like gonna make me emotional, and it was such a tender moment to see her like, oh my gosh, like there's people and these lights. I think I don't know what she thinks we do, but I think she was like, wow, you like, okay. It was like this really aha moment, and it was so tender. So that's been like right in your journal moment that I will always treasure.
I definitely feel similarly. Just I feel like the impact it's had on our family. You know, we've talked about this. We are faith driven, and you know, we often will pray over things with our business. My husband, one other thing that I feel like has been such a fun thing is getting to work alongside my husband. So we both of our husbands are in the business, and
we recruited them over.
Yes. Marilee's husband has kind of been there since the beginning, and mine recently joined last year from being at Qualtrics, and so. I never wanted to work with my husband ever, mostly because I just didn't want it to impact our relationship, and I was always like, I don't know, would we work well
Probably
together?
because she saw us working together.
No, they're like the exemplar couple, but it has been such a gift because I feel like we've been able to see each other in such a different light, and I've been able to just witness growth that I don't think I would have, you know, not being in the front seat of, you know, this new position that he's been doing for us. So I feel like that's been really sweet, but just it really is such a family affair for us. Our kids are involved, our spouses, our parents, and it's really sweet to see it all come together. So.
And like a super superficial note, but we took our kids to Lake Powell last year. That was like the end all dream of all dreams. Like glow sticks, flying in the water at night. We may or may not have ripped a tube that both our husbands were riding when we were driving the boat. Like it was a memorable experience, but that was a really fun payoff.
I love it. I love it. Well, that wrapped up perfectly. It sounds like everything you shared today was true and genuine to just who you are as people, which is incredible. We have a little thank you gift for you. There's 2 of everything in here.
You're so kind. Thanks, Bree.
Thank you for having
Let's
us.
Let's give one more round of applause to Jess and Mare.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you guys so much. That was amazing. Thank you, Jessica, Marilee, Bree. Always amazing. Isn't she incredible? Can we just give it up for Bree real quick? She just knows what she's doing, dang it. She's good with it. I love that. And I hope you guys were inspired as I was. One of the things they talked about was she said, you're not going to do everything perfectly. I think that's a point that I'm trying to live my life and trying to understand better. I feel like a lot of times we don't give ourselves, room for mistakes, and if we make any type of mistake, we beat ourselves up too much, and then it ends up being worse for us because we beat ourselves so much. And then a couple, let's see, another one she said, I think it was Marilee that said she rarely looks back and regrets not making more time for family. Was that Marilee? Yeah, it was. I love that. And then finally, they talked about building a brand, a story, and a community. That's amazing. I think it's that, it's building something like that really, and at the end really generates a lot more revenue because you're so focused on the people behind it and the community with it. Now, we want to thank our sponsors, Central Bank. They are the ones that sponsored our lunch today. But right before we get to lunch, I'd like to invite Darren, the CEO of RevRoad, for a quick little announcement.
All right, so I really love that. Thank you so much. And Bruce, thank you, and so much, Shari. That was amazing. Love the example you always share, and I love that you came with gifts, right? I mean, that's the best. So one of the things that you shared, Jessica and Marilee, is the grace and goodness is at the core of what you do. And we try to have all of our RevRoad portfolio companies look for those kinds of values, and they'll define them in their own ways. One of our portfolio companies, we have 47 right now. In a few weeks, we'll add another cohort. One of those is Phone Soap. And Phone Soap has done so many great things through the years. And one of the things they've done is hired some just incredible people, and also some people that you would consider to be from non-traditional hiring pools, including some homeless people, like literally homeless, and brought them in, gave them job training and opportunities to lift themselves to a whole different level. And some of you have been here when we've had one of those folks come and speak, and just the change in his life. Well, we have another one who is there working at the warehouse, who has some special needs, and we'd just like to share a little bit about the GoFundMe campaign that we're doing for him. So Brandon, will you come and join us on the stage? Brandon's with Phone Soap, and he's leading the campaign.
Yeah, thank you, Darren. So Vaughn was our first friend that came last year. John Hansen brought his son, and they've kind of done outreach, John and Chase, and they've gone out, just taken homeless people to lunch, given them a meal, and just had a conversation to relate with them. And so I met John while I got my job at Phone Soap through the Bacon app. It's a staffing agency, and a lot of these individuals that John and Chase meet on the street, they will introduce them to the Bacon app, which then allows them to have more flexibility with getting into a workplace environment without an interview, because that's one of the challenging things, and they can build a profile and demonstrate commitment and competency within their core values, and so that helped Vaughn, and that helped Casey. That actually helped me too, because I was experiencing a lot of anxiety from childhood trauma that was just really challenging for me to just go through the interview process and develop myself personally. So I've been a part of that journey myself. But for Casey, next steps for him is we've started a GoFundMe. We've raised $1,500 already to help him get a new set of teeth. Adam Allen is the supply chain director at Phone Soap, and he started the GoFundMe, and we've posted it to social medias. And actually what Adam did was he approached a local dentist who was willing to discount 50% of this procedure. So it's just, we're getting support, and we just need a little more of a bump to get another $4,500 or whatever it is to help get Casey's new teeth. So there's two simple ways to find that link. In the Instagram post for Marilee and Jessica's RevRoad, I put in the comments the link. There was no hyperlink option in it, so you would have to get it from there. I also posted it to my own LinkedIn, just barely, so it's a fresh post. If you want to find that link pretty quick, you can go onto my LinkedIn, and Brandon, Ernest Clark is my LinkedIn, so Brandon Ernest Clark. So that's how you can help.
Thank you, Brandon. Thanks. And we'll post the link on RevRoad's social media pages as well, and so you'll find it there. And what's the name of the campaign? If they just go directly to GoFundMe, what would the campaign name be?
Help Casey get a new set of teeth.
Hard to miss that. Help Casey get a new set of teeth. Okay. All right. Thanks. Back to you.
Thank you. I just looked it up on RevRoad's Instagram, but if you look to RevRoad on Instagram, you're going to see the beautiful picture of Jessica and Marilee right here. It's in the comment section. There's 3 comments, so real easy to find. It's a top comment, super simple. But I love that. I think any opportunity for us to service and give back to the community is really the best way to show appreciation to the community and to God and to the community we've built of our customers and whatnot. And at the end of the day, I think that drives up a lot of, again, it all goes to building that brand and building a story and building that community. But let's see here. Real quick, just want to thank also Bruce and Sherry, Jessica, Marilee, Bree, and then the guys that never get enough credit, the guys in the back that were doing all the videos, all these cool stuff. Let's give it up. The video team, you guys are amazing. Amazing. Let's give it up to our mic runners, too. Look at them standing up. You guys were sitting, they were standing, ready to give you the mics at any moment. Thank you guys so much. So next month, we'll have another review, of course. Our next review will be Thursday, April 7th at 11 a.m., of course. Our featured founder will be Clint Berry. Clint was a co-founder of Weave and is now the CEO of a great startup called Cola. And you can come join us, of course. Everybody's welcome. Online, person, in person, way better because you also get the free lunch. And so we have a little teaser, right? No teaser, psych. I teased you guys though. Got you good. Well, without further ado, though, that is all we have for today. Thank you guys so much for coming.